Well everyone, I've got a very special one for you today. We are going inside the Tower of London. So this will be a first for any of my pages with videos and such, so I hope you all enjoy it. I'm going to pause you and put you in my pocket. The pocket is clean and it does not smell of urine currently, so we're good to go. Well everyone, we're in. That gentleman there at the front is a yeoman warder and this is the tour, but I'm not doing the tour. I'm going to give you the tour. You can hear him shouting. They give some fantastic tours. Anyone that hasn't been, do come on one of the tours. It really is amazing. We are at the Bywood Tower now, which was erected in the year 1280. This is the Moat. It's going to give you a little view of certain things. What I said about in one of my lives before, the room where the medieval mural is up in that room there. The public can't see that mural unfortunately, but it was there when the Royal Mint, that's called the Middle Tower by the way, and it was there when the Royal Mint was open and trading from this place. And as I've said before, it was to remind the mint workers and anyone that had anything to do with the mint what would happen to them in hell if they stole from the Royal Mint. That was after this place had finished with them, of course. You didn't steal from this place and get away with it. This is a pre-record and I'm doing that for a reason, because it's not packed here. Normally, because of COVID, they're on hourly slots, but it's so quiet that they just let you in straight away, so that's cool. This is what I was showing you when I was over that side. This is where I showed you from last time. We have Tower Bridge, all the people going by, and this is a traditional, very old, very old stone guard tower. So yeah, that's where they would have stood in nasty weather to keep themselves as dry and out of the weather as they could. You've got the Moat here. Before the Duke of Wellington, the Moat was filled with the Thames and hence filled with sewage, and it made a lot of people very ill. So when the Duke of Wellington came along, he literally revolutionised this place, moved many of the buildings and had the Moat filled in and dealt with so it wouldn't fill with the Thames anymore, and the disease was got rid of overnight. This is basically a representation changed from Roman times. This machine, and medieval times, sorry, rather. This machine is called a trebuchet, and basically the rope's there, it's like elasticated in a way. You pull it back, pull it back, as it's pulled there. You put whatever you throw at your enemy in that, pull it, and then it throws it into castle walls. They used to use stones, dead cows, plague victims were another one because that spread disease. Nice things like that. Greek fire was another one, was a favourite of theirs, and that was a medieval one, and I don't believe that anyone knows the recipe to that to this day. But it was a fire that was so intense that even it wouldn't go out in water. So if that came flying over to you, you're in trouble really. So wait for these people to go by. So look, we're in the very old, and you've got the very modern now, which is a juxtaposition that I quite like. So we're seeing some nice views now. I will go live when it's a bit quiet, but amazing architecture. Right, we're going into the Bywood Tower now, or under the Bywood Tower. Here you can see is a portcullis. Medieval times, no doubt. Yeah, and these little bad boys are murder holes. They pour boiling oil, boiling tar, boiling sand through those. That would rain down on any invaders and you would be in trouble. You'd be burnt quite badly. Oh look, we've got another tour here. There he is, look, there's a yeoman warder. Or a beefeater as they're known. They're talking about Thomas More, Sir Thomas More, who died for his faith in the reign of King Henry VIII. This is the bell tower. They still ring this curfew bell every night, and I believe it's 9 o'clock. If you watch any documentaries about the Tower of London, you'll see that. And I do beg your pardon, I made a mistake with the mural. It's not in that room over there, it's up through here. I remember now from watching it. Yeah, in that room there is a mural from medieval times. The public don't get to see it because it's very delicate, but as I said, it depicts of what would happen to you in hell, basically, if you stole. This was after the tower had finished with you. Royal entrance. King Henry VIII greeted Anne Boleyn when she walked through this narrow gate before her coronation in 1533. This private entrance was for important visitors and precious goods. So, ladies and gentlemen, Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn both walked through there. More important, other important people were Elizabeth I, when she was probably a prisoner in the reign of her sister, aka Bloody Mary, because she had so many people burned to death. She refused to be taken in through Traitor's Gate, so in the end they brought her in through here. I'm going to pause you a minute because I have to put my mask on going inside the inside area, but I'm going to give you a tour of the Royal Mint in a minute. We're going again, guys, and this beefeater is talking about the Duke of Monmouth. It was taken up to the Tower Hill and executed, like many people were. Only the most very important people were allowed to
execution in English
basically get executed in here. This is nice, look, a Christmas display they've done. And I'm afraid because of the COVID restrictions, I believe that the Royal Mint may be closed. I could be wrong. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Jack Ketch was approximately 6'8" tall, weighing way in excess of 20+ stone. He was a giant of a man, but he was a part-time executioner.
You're getting views that you've never seen before.
Part-time butcher, but he was a full-time alcoholic. Cheers. As most of them were back then, because they were hated in society. And on their
Well, they'll lead these people to their tour and we'll carry on with ours.
It took Jack Ketch 5 strokes of the axe. The first stroke came down, striking the Duke on the top of his left shoulder.
As you can hear that, the Duke of Monmouth's execution was really brutal. One of the most brutal, another one of the most brutal is old Lady Salisbury, who was the godmother of King Henry VIII, and because her son basically had gone against Henry VIII, and Henry VIII couldn't get to her son because he was in Rome, he got to the son's mother and the brother, and he one of the young nephews, and he was very young, and none of them came out of this place. Cardinal Pole, Reginald Pole, his mother, old Lady Salisbury, was taken to the block and ran around and was butchered because the executioner that was supposed to do her execution was ill. So his stand-in was a young boy or a young lad who'd had no experience, and it was not good. It was a butcher's shop, it really was. They chased her, he had to chase her all around the scaffold, the block, and in the end had to finish the job off with a knife. So I'm going to give you Traitor's Gate, then we are going to go up into the medieval palace. I'll do these lives in segments of say 20 minutes, these pre-records in segments of 20 minutes. So. Right, yeoman warders have guarded the Tower of London since the 1500s. They were originally part of the personal bodyguard of the king or queen. Oh, this is what I was saying the other day. This is their ceremonial state dress for all the really big occasions. This is their everyday dress. Now we're going to give you a little sweep around. Once we go into the medieval palace, we'll come out through that way over there and we'll be able to walk along the battlements, which is always a brilliant view, as you get to see Tower Bridge and aspects of London that you don't always get to see. I'm going to take you to Traitor's Gate now. I know, this is my 7th visit, so they asked me if I wanted a guidebook. I said, no, it's okay, thank you, I've got one in my bag, I've been 6 times. She went, you won't need the tour then? I went, no, I'm going to stick to myself. You could probably do the tour. Well, not as good as the Yeoman Warders, but I'd certainly give it a go. St Thomas's Tower, this is. Up here, this is all medieval from the 1200s. As you can see, it's an absolutely amazing building. I'm going to go very slowly. St Thomas's Tower. King Edward I built St Thomas's Tower as a grand river entrance and luxurious royal apartments in the late 1270s. The building work was partly funded by a heavy tax that Edward imposed on England's Jewish community. This is something that doesn't much get spoken about. We in England had a Holocaust under this king. They basically killed the Jews because the Jews were the money lenders, because Christians weren't allowed to lend money because of the sin of usury. Jews were. So once the king and everyone and all the nobles had lent everything they could off of them, they turned on them and got the people to turn on them and kill them. There's a well in Yorkshire somewhere, and it is, when it was archaeologically discovered and dug up, it was filled with the skeletal remains of Jewish people that had been killed in England's Holocaust, which happened in the 1200s. So that doesn't get much spoken about, but England did have a Holocaust, a very shameful thing. Round about the same time that they got rid of the Knights Templars as well, because of their wealth that they wanted. When a king in those days saw that someone had something more than him and he wanted it, he generally took it, which is what Henry VIII did in the Reformation. And now you're seeing... Oh shit, that made me jump. Oh, I'm going to let you have a tour now. This is Traitor's Gate we're at, by the way. This is where Anne Boleyn would have come through. Catherine Howard, George Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's brother. So many of the prisoners were brought in through this gate and they did not come back out again. This here is the Bloody Tower. Named so because of the princes in the tower that were murdered. I will not be doing much of the group. I will not be doing much of the group tours because I'm trying to keep away from the crowds. But I am masked, so if my voice does not sound good, and that's why I apologise in advance. So yeah, it's sorry. We'll wait for. There's another beefeater going around his cloak there. Look. These are these cast iron things I tell you about that are up on the ramparts. We might see some up there. I don't know if they've moved them or not. But these are look down from the ramparts. If you've got good eyesight, you can see them from Tower Bridge. I am having to go careful here because of the mask. I can't have my glasses on. That one there is the Wakefield Tower. I have to keep lifting my glasses to my eyes to see, because if I keep them on they steam up. Right. I'm going to give you another pan round of everything. We've just come in through there. Another garden tower, one of the round ones up there. These are to keep the guards dry and stuff inclement weather. But as you can see, each one of these arrow slits would have fired bows and arrows, crossbows. King Edward, who we just heard a little bit about, was a completely ruthless man. The hammer of the Scots. I think it was Edward, I'm pretty sure it was Edward the First that we had the English Holocaust under, but I will double check that, and if I'm wrong I apologise, but we definitely did have a Holocaust in England. I will check my facts when I get home. I'm pretty sure it's Edward the First. Right, we are now going into the medieval palace in South Battlements. I'll get you to say about, well, I'll do this bit and then, so I don't want to make each recording too long. I mean, it's 2 o'clock now and we have 2.5 hours of this wonderful place to ourselves. We'll let these people go in and I'll just give you some nice views. This is Traitor's Gate, the steps up which Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard and so many others would have gone. They give an absolute wonderful show, these yeoman warders. They train to do all this, and it's similar to doing the knowledge, like what a London taxi driver has to do to become a London taxi driver. So yeah, we are now going to go in through the medieval palace. So, here we go. This is where the royal family would have stayed. No prisoners ever stayed here, it was far too luxurious.
However, castles were important symbols of royal power and wealth. William the Conqueror strategically sited the White Tower to dominate the city and control the river.
You'll see in views that every royal since King Edward I and his wife, right up until the 1700s when the royals really stopped using this place, would have enjoyed and seen it. This place was the height of luxury in its day.
He also added a great hall, kitchens and stables. He and his family stayed in rooms along the riverside. Edward later added a second wall around the tower, defended by a vast new moat to make it even stronger. He also added the imposing new Watergate below where you are standing now. Both kings increased taxes to pay for their building work. Edward built St Thomas's Tower.
This room, I love this room. It was a favourite of the Queen's. They'd sit here and they'd watch the boats go by, and the people would, if they were popular, cheer to them and stuff like that. You are now seeing Tower Bridge, which obviously would not have existed in those days. The only bridge in London in those days when this place was built, and for a long time after it, was the London Bridge. You didn't get a bridge in London other than London Bridge until the 1750s. I'll show you some of the architecture of this room because it's amazing. All 1200s, so this is 900 odd years old, 800, 900 years old, and they really know how to build in those days, didn't they? The talking tours and things like this, like that you can hear, didn't used to have this. It must be something they've done with COVID, or just to something different. You're hearing medieval music now.
This would be my dressing room. Much of the Tower of London's appearance today is due to you see the size of the moat really. Together they expanded the fortress and created an impressive new palace within it. As you explore the medieval palace, you will see how it might have looked in the 1200s. You might even bump into one of its royal residents. First, let us introduce you to their stories. Edward and his father Henry were descendants of William the Conqueror, the Norman Duke who invaded
It was the
England in
chute for the
1066.
toilet. It was the chute for the
Henry
toilets.
were two
I thought it was
powerful
running
men,
like a fire
but
chick.
two
Guard
very
rope.
different rulers.
Guard yeah, would have emptied straight into the Thames. That's the great fireplace there. I've been 7 times, so I know this place. Yeah, I love this place. No worries.
Many
Yeah.
lords, or barons as they were known,
Here, those
were in
ladies were asked
rebellion
if
over
they didn't
high
know what this
taxes
was.
and royal demands.
This wouldn't have been on show in those days, but it was a chute for the
Rebellion
toilets that empty
continued
down
into
and
Henry's reign, and he
went to all
struggled
the
to keep control. He took
royal
refuge here at the Tower during
fluvias
periods
into
of
the
unrest and civil war.
into the Thames.
Despite this, Henry managed to hold on to power and reigned for 56
I like to
years.
try and help people if I can,
Longer
because
than any other
the more
medieval
people learn
king
about
of
this
England.
place and love it, the more it will be preserved
He
and
loved
looked
art and
after.
architecture and was very religious.
I was speaking to the lady at the
He
ticket
rebuilt
office,
Westminster Abbey into the
and she said
magnificent
that
church
the
that
tourism
stands
industry
today.
has hit this place so hard.
Henry married
So,
Anna of Provence, and
if
they
anyone
enjoyed a long
can,
and
you can
happy
help this
life
place
together.
by donating £5
When Henry died,
and you
their
text it to
firstborn
Raven,
son,
and I will get the number for that and
inherited
check.
the throne. Edward was a very different type of king. He was tall and muscular, an advantage in war as his long arms meant greater reach with his sword. Unlike his father, he was strong and decisive, a warrior king. Edward used brutal action to win and keep power. He is often remembered as the Hammer of the Scots. In 1294, he stayed in these rooms while preparing for war. Edward also did much to reform the kingdom, setting up a long-lasting legal system and establishing a parliament that is still recognisable today. Edward married Eleanor of Castile when they were both teenagers. It was a political partnership and a successful marriage. When Eleanor died, aged 49, he was heartbroken. It was 9 years before Edward married again.
This is what
to
I was
Margaret
talking
of
about the other
France.
day at St Paul's, that King Edward raised a cross everywhere. The funeral procession, his queen stopped, and that's how you ended up with Charing Cross. And they were a very close couple, and she was a respected lady, being the daughter of a king, and he took her advice. And Charing, they say, comes from the name share reign, because they shared the reign. Charing Cross. St Paul's Cross and other crosses being amongst them. You can see how the lath and plaster walls were built in those days. You're seeing the back side of it. This room's interesting because it shows you fabrics and things of the royal family, and you can touch them and stuff like that. Fabrics that would have been in the royal chambers. In Edward's chamber. This is tiles and things like from the time. I'll show you another view. What you're going to see in a minute is an amazing room, which is a recreation of the bedchamber of King Edward and his queen. You're seeing views of outside from the tower. I've seen these views many times, but I've never shared them online or with anyone else that can't get here to see. I'll show you some more. I will do these in segments because it will be too long otherwise. But as you can see, the architecture in this place is just amazing. I wish I could have my glasses on because I'll try and see if they steam out. They keep steaming out. Steaming up again. You're seeing the bloody tower from St Thomas's Tower. In that room there is where the princes in the tower were murdered. I'll do a separate pre-record or video on that one, because there are 2 locations within the Tower of London relating to that. You've seen the first location. I'll stop. This is amazing. This is an exact recreation of how the bedchamber of King Edward and his queen would have looked in the 1200s. As you can see, Sorry, thank you. Sorry, thank you. Bless you. People just ducked under so they wouldn't interfere with the video. It was very nice. They found these colours and things when they were renovating years ago, and it's all been recreated using the exact paints and everything exactly as it would have been. I'll give you some more views so you know that royals, King Edward, Henry VIII, King Henry V, all the big important ones, all would have stood here. Because don't forget, every monarch in those days stayed at the Tower before their coronation, and they was taken from the Tower to Westminster Abbey to be crowned. King or Queen, whoever they were, whether they were a reigning monarch or to marry a monarch, and they were to be crowned. Here are items that actually belonged to King Edward. That's a Book of Hours. That is a puzzle type game you would have played in those days. A coffer box. And King Edward, who loves dogs. And you think these items, not the candlesticks because they're newer, but these, for not that wooden thing because that's new, but the book, the coffer and that are 800 years old. The craftsmanship is amazing. The bed is obviously a recreation, but it's exactly as a royal's bed would have been in those days. You've got lots of mattresses, and these beds don't have wooden rungs or anything, they have ropes, and that's where we get the saying sleep tight from, because they would tighten the ropes to make sure the mattress didn't sag, and that's where the old English saying sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite come from, because every bed in those days, royal or not, was full of lice and bugs and stuff. It was fleas and things. The Tower Bridge. You get some really amazing views from this place. This is the Royal Private Chapel in here. That cross there is gold and very old. And very, very precious, of course. All walls and things would have been hung with rich tapestries and stuff in those days, like you're seeing here, but a lot of them had Bible depictions and things on them. You've got the wooden window shutters still. You're seeing the moat, the curtain wall. King Edward was not a very nice king in many regards. He was extremely ruthless. What he did to the Scottish and the Welsh alone was... Right, this is why so many people, even if you're remotely unsteady, cannot visit the tower, because the stairs are quite... You have to be careful. And I haven't got my glasses on, so... Each one of these stairs is a slightly different size because they are designed that way to trip people up if they're trying to invade, so they fall on their own sword. There's a nice view. This is an arrow slit window. Wouldn't have been glassed in those days. Glass was a real luxury. In King William the Conqueror's day, you wouldn't have had glass. Some of the windows may have had panels of horn in them, like cow horn, that they boiled and flattened out. Lanterns had horns in, like horn panels in them. That's why you get the word a horn lantern. That's the original. Right, to show you more of the architecture of this amazing place. I don't know if that was an orb that just danced across there, or not these things. They're just light glare, but obviously this place is severely haunted. Everything is so old here. Now we're entering the most luxurious part. As you can see, the royal family lived in great comfort. A murder in the chapel. This is King Henry. I'll show you the chapel in a minute. I'll leave on this for a minute so you can read it. Try and steady myself. Ceremony of the Lilies and Roses. I know about that one. That's well known. Poor King Henry was mad, and King Edward, who wanted to take over, and his brothers, Richard III, as he would later become, he was the Duke of York then, and George, Duke of Clarence, the King's other brother, murdered him. And in a minute you will see where they murdered him. Now you're going to see something very special. The throne. That's called the canopy of estate. Only one of the highest of the land could have that over their chair or over their bed. That represents the extreme power that they had. Now you're seeing the great fireplace. I was told once that this burned a ton of logs every month, a whole ton of logs. Now I'm going to show you this. This is amazing. This was built between the 1270s and 1280s. That would have been candles in the old days, of course. Best beeswax candles for the royal family, and tallow candles which smelt and sputtered for everyone else. See the amazing architecture in this place. It's just... Now I'm going to show you where King Henry VI was murdered. This is where they have the ceremony of the Lilies and Roses. In the White Queen they show, or say that he's like smothered in his bed, but the accounts do say that he was hit over the head and murdered here. This is the beautiful stained glass, which is all original. The royal families had their little private chapels, and they would go to the main services in the chapel of St John, or later on, when it was built, the chapel of St Peter ad Vincula. But the White Tower, which we'll see in another pre-record or live, has its own chapel that was built in Norman times. This here was where the host and the wine, the bread for the mass, and the monstrance was kept. Oh, we've got this room to ourselves. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, I hope you're all enjoying this, because I am. They've even got a sound effect of the crackling of the logs. That's amazing. They do little upgrades and things. King Henry III's palace. If I do move off of things quickly, just pause the video and wind it back and pause it if you want to read something in particular. Obviously there's so much here that I can't focus for hours on everything because we would run out of time very quickly. We are now moving on. I can show you what I mean now. You know when I say to you about the stairs in palaces being easy to defend? This is what I mean, this stone column here. Because if you try and run up these stairs and strike with a sword, it's very difficult if you're right-handed. But if you're up here, standing here, which is easily defended by just one man, you can thrust and cut and stab much easily. These are all there, and these are called trick stairs because although they're wooden clad now to protect them, each one of them is a different size, and that's designed to make you trip up and fall onto your sword when you're trying to invade. Now you're going to see something very special. Yeah. This is where I've done my other videos where these people are walking. We've never been in this bit before. And once again, as I always say, I love the old with the new of the shard. This will be one that Mr. Airborne will like because he loves the shard. Great fellow, Mr. Airborne. His hashtag Let's Talk, what he's really promoted so well, and the positive messages he always gives through in his own lives. I don't know if he realises just how helpful he's been to people, but I hope he does. So if you're watching this, Airborne, you heard what I said there, mate. This is William the Conqueror's White Tower, the oldest bit of the tower. It's built on this mound. It would have had much plainer pointed roofs on it, but these were put on by Henry VIII for the coronation of Queen Anne Boleyn. And we all know what happened to her, don't we? Right. Down there are the Tower Ravens, but I'll go down there and do a bit closer on those. We are now walking along the medieval ramparts. We'll be going towards the Salt Tower, which is that one over there, I believe. But I'll give you some more of Tower Bridge and the views here. This live, I was going to keep them to about 20-30 minutes, but this is fine. Anyone that likes it will watch, and anyone that doesn't, that's it. We all like different things, don't we? Nice to see the boats going by. In the olden days, like very long time ago, it would have been the Thames boatmen ferrying people back and forth and up and down river. It was the easiest way to travel about in those days, was the Thames. Most people travelled, and all the nobles had their mansion houses along the banks of the Thames with piers or docking stations for their boats and stuff, and for people when they were visiting. Shard again. This doesn't shut till 4:30, so you should be here before when it starts to get dark, and then you should see some amazing views. It's very quiet in here today compared to what it is. You normally cannot move up here on the ramparts. They're one of the most popular bits. But yeah, the Tower Bridge, which speaks for itself, doesn't it? There we go. This one might be about an hour. I'll try and keep it under if I can, but See the architecture, and this is just also you can defend from here. If you are interested, type in the White Tower rooftops up there. It's lead, it's all lead, but it's amazing the way it's built. These little bits up here the public can't get into because obviously it goes out onto the roof and stuff. And a lot of the dungeons and things that were around I got rid of. You can see here the foundations of some of the older buildings that were here. As I said, the Duke of Wellington, when he came along and was made governor of the Tower, he revolutionised the place and removed a lot of the buildings and the royal menagerie. That was after several accidents. Someone got their arm bitten off, someone got mauled. But we'll talk more about the royal menagerie when we go down here. Just something interesting for you to see then. I nearly filmed, but I hope you haven't noticed. Alright. See, I try not to film too many people. Can't be helped in a place like this, and everyone's got their cameras out, so we all knows what we're here for. Tower Ravens. I meant to say about it the other day and waylaid myself, which I always do, and forgot. The Tower of London nearly lost its ravens, and they nearly lost its ravens because of Sir Christopher Wren, who built St Paul's and much of London after the fire. Sir Christopher Wren, Samuel Pepys, Isaac Newton, some of the famous people in their days, there was telescopes they had on here, and the ravens were causing a hell of a problem, and the scientists and whatnot, Christopher Wren wanted them got rid of. So they went to the king, or one of them went to the king and said, can we get rid of these ravens, they're causing a problem. And some superstitious person said to the king, sire, you must have the ravens here. If you take the ravens away, the tower shall fall, and yourself and the kingdom shall crumble into dust. And then Charles, who was a very superstitious man, King Charles II I'm talking about, thought, shit, no, we'll keep 6 ravens at the tower, but I believe that they keep spares as well now. Merlina, she escaped. She was lovely, Merlina. I've seen her a couple of times and was able to feed her a little bit of chicken. She escaped, so I'll have to check if she's back. These black telephone boxes, I have found out, obviously, I know that the telephone boxes didn't exist in Queen Victoria's day. Most public things were painted black when the Prince Regent died. And these phone boxes nowadays have been painted black because when Prince Philip died, which is something I found out today. They've got some lovely Christmas displays, as you can see. They always make an effort. The only bit we cannot go into, I'm afraid, is the Beauchamp Tower, and that's a shame because that's where all the graffiti is from the prisoners, the Dudleys. There's some amazing stuff, but don't worry, I do have photos from my previous visits which I will share with you of the inscriptions and graffiti, and they did these with things like pen knives and nails, and they are amazing. They really are amazing. I mean, I couldn't do the same thing. I mean, I'm fairly creative, but I most definitely could not do the same thing. This is the Lanthorn Tower, and it was built between 1222 and 1238. Demolished 1777 and rebuilt 19th century. This is what I was on about the other day when I was down there, about the Victorians trying to, when they knew this place was getting going with the tourism industry, they really vamped it up and made bits of it look more medieval than it was, like this. I mean, you look at this now and it really does look medieval, but it was rebuilt in the 19th century, as you just saw. And the Victorians loved Gothic, and this is all Gothic. And they were a bit gaudy with their stuff normally, but they did a good job with this one. Queen Victoria would have been highly involved with whatever happened here, and she was highly involved with the decision of the bridge going there. And as I said the other day, her decree was, yes, it may go there, but it must be in keeping with the Tower of London. Had she not said that, you would have ended up with a very, what's under all this pretty cladding, a very plain iron type structure like the Forth Rail Bridge, but they had to keep it in keeping, and it's even got gargoyles on it and things which you would have seen in my photos I took. we're doing videos first, and then we'll go back round and do photos later. They're talking about the execution of Anne Boleyn over there. That's the one they always give. And that bit was the shout. It's when the execution had finished, and the executioner holds up the head and says, "Behold, the head of a traitor, and so die all the Queen's enemies or the King's enemies." And people would have cheered because Anne Boleyn was disliked. Her execution was kept fairly private because it would have caused a big fuss. She was a queen. That's why she was executed in here. Only the most important people were executed on Tower Green over there. Other nobles and other people were executed on Tower Hill. If you were a commoner, you were generally hanged at Tyburn or burned, or if you'd committed treason, hung, drawn and quartered. Anne Boleyn was innocent, basically. She was an innocent woman. Or it was. She couldn't give Henry VIII a son. And Anne Boleyn and her brother, George Boleyn, had taken the mickey out of Henry VIII. How can I put this discreetly? Basically said he wasn't very potent. That's the way I can describe it. Yeah, he wasn't very potent. And you did not insult Henry VIII and live, basically. So yeah, that's why they went. So we'll be going in here in a minute because there's some really lovely objects and artifacts, all from medieval times and of the time. Then I'll end this video and I'll start another one. So we have to go very careful down these stairs here because they, as I say, were deliberately designed to check people over. And how people in medieval times, especially the women that wore great big skirts and things, how they got up and down these stairs, I have no idea, without falling over. Gamelion, 1250 to 1275. It's beautifully gilded and enamelled copper bowl. May have been used at a great royal feast. It was made in Limoges, an area of western France famous for its rich form of tableware. English kings imported luxury goods from all over Europe. The spout poured water into a similar bowl, which was used for rinsing the hands before eating. Courtly life. If anyone likes anything in particular, you can take screenshots. If you don't know how to take a screenshot, ask me and I will give you the best description I can. Centenage jug. This partially reconstructed jug still retains some of its painted decoration. You may have seen a reproduction of this colourful jug in Edward's bedchamber. We did, that's what we saw just now, it was near the bed. These very fine pots were produced in the Centenage region of southwest France and exported all over Europe. The Normans and the French were amazing craftsmen. An Andalusian bowl. This is interesting because it's from like the Mediterranean world where the Crusades and everything. This bowl was made in Malaga in Spain. As well as missing her native fruit, Eleanor of Castile, also Heva, missed her Spanish pottery. Eleanor's household accounts show that 42 bowls arrived from Malaga in 1289, along with other dishes and jars of foreign colour. So they was bringing a bit of the Queen's homeland, so she was obviously feeling homesick, which is something that anyone that lives in a foreign country will recognise today. Coins, my favourites. I have one of these, I have one of those, and I have one of them at home, real ones. Coins from the reign of Edward I. As you can see, the two large silver groats. A groat was 4p. They're 4p each, those two big ones. It's a similar penny, which is the larger, smallest one there, and a farthing is the smallest one. Farthing is a quarter penny. It's going to be a bit long, this one. Stylus. Royal scribes used this bone stylus to scratch marks onto wax writing tablets. These notes may have been written up on animal skins in ink. You can then spot the handle of this example is carved in the shape of a standing figure holding a bird, possibly a hawk. Hunting with hawks was a favourite court pastime. Only certain classes of people were allowed to hunt with hawks. Seal matrix from the 13th century. The figure of a knight on horseback was a popular symbol for many nobles, as it represented the heroic military virtues of the period. The seal matrix was made from jet and inscribed with the name of its owner, William Fitzhammond. William would press the mark matrix into sealing wax to create an impression and then attach a impression onto a ribbon at the bottom of his official document. That was basically like their signature. No document was official or legalised without that. And also his sealing is how they sealed letters shut in those days, because you didn't have envelopes. So they'd fold each corner in and then seal it over with sealing wax. As you can see, we're in the Victorian area, so it isn't as architecturally amazing inside as some of the places. Tablemen, 13th century. These two playing pieces made of bone, whilst the two discs are made of ivory, could have been used to play tables. This was a popular game which had been known in England for thousands of years before Henry and Edward. Tables later developed into backgammon. Something we've still got today. A ring off from the past. Oh, this is my favourite object. I love, and one you're going to see in a minute. This is my second favourite object, which is a beautiful chess piece carved from rock crystal. Its abstract form makes it hard to say which piece it represents. Chess probably originated in India, but by the end of the 11th century was practiced by nobles across Europe, Asia. Chess incorporating chess problems. That's better. That's amazing. Look, I think that's like 900 odd years old. A toy knight, child's toy, in the year 1300 circa.
Yeah, it's called the chalice.
Now you're going to see my most favourite object, which is a portable altarpiece from the 13th century. This is from the 1200s. Henry and Edward and their families owned small devotional objects like this, intricately carved ivory, polyptych, showing scenes from the life of the Virgin Mary. Daily worship was an important part of life at court. You have already seen Edward's private chapel or oratory on one side of the bedchamber. That's that bit we showed you where King Henry VI was murdered. This is a chalice in which the communion wine would have been poured and received, circa 1200. I like to give different views out of the windows and everything because you just see so much here. It's an amazing place, as you can see. At least with these Victorian stairs, they're all the same size, which is more than can be said for the medieval ones. There we are. Right. Back out onto the ramparts. Invaders, like as in the Peasants' Revolt, they could have been shot and killed from all these little bits and bobs here. The Peasants' Revolt did get into the tower, which was one of the only times it was breached, and that was done because of an insider, they believe. And they harassed the king's mother, the common people, asked her to give them a kiss, and she fainted. A noblewoman was not used to being treated like that. She was lucky to have escaped of her life.
Yeah, is that the kissing? Now can we go down?
And there you're seeing more views of Tower Bridge. We're at 55 minutes now, so I'll get you to an hour on this one. Toilets, which are modern. Oh, this is interesting, this bit. We'll do another one on that. That's about Father John Gerard.
Going that way. Well, it literally says there, no entry. See that one?
And you get some lovely views. Look, that's the Queen's house over there where the governor lives. Thank you. God bless them. People are it's so polite now, and it's really, that's one thing with COVID. I think it's people
Unless you want to go to the Salt Tower, George.
be a little bit nicer, hopefully. Polite people are always polite in here anyway. Generally. Ah, great. Here we are. It's one of these cast iron things I keep telling you about. They're really good. They're modern art, of course, but they're very, very good. This is the Salt Tower, and I will be ending this one in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to give you a pan around, and I shall end this one at an hour. Upload it. There we are. This is the cafe and restaurant and everything now. As you see, it's military barracks in its day in Wellington's time. So yeah, you can hear the crows up in the trees. Oh, there's a nest. It's a crow's nest. Oh, ravens. That's a raven chasing the crows off. Does not like having its territory invaded. They're very territorial. This is like service area type things as it goes through around here. Around this way is where the yeomen live, and I'll be doing a separate video on that in a moment. Now we're getting a lovely view of the river, which I'm going to get you to there, and I'm going to end that one, I think. There we go. There we are. Well, ain't that just real fine and pretty? You can see now why this place was so easy to defend, because you've literally got views all around, and considering in medieval times this was one of the highest buildings in London and the only stone building in this little bit of the area other than the church, it was very easy to defend. Alright, and we're nearly at an hour on this one. We've got another 2 minutes. So, oh yes, I like that view. Let's go back. As I say, I like old mingled with new because it shows that a place is still alive, still living and breathing. And you've got the Shard, yeah, against the old there, which is lovely. The Shard looks amazing lit up at night time. The Shard is like Marmite, people either love it or hate it. I must admit, it's growing on me, is the Shard. I must admit. I'm slightly more fond of it than I was. Alright, and I'll take you back over here, so we do have a couple of minutes left. And then I'll end you on the Bywood Tower, I think. Henry VIII's great cannon down there. Yeah. All the important people, prisoners like the Queens and that, were kept in prison in the governor's house, Thomas Moral and that, and their journey would have gone along there into the scaffold, but we'll see more of that in a minute.